There's a feeling most of us know well, but rarely call by its real name. You wake up in the morning, and before you've even made it to the kitchen, something is pressing down on you. Not from one specific problem, not from one bad day, just a background hum. Quiet, but constant. Like someone snuck up while you were sleeping and put a backpack on your shoulders. And you get up, make your coffee, drive where you need to go, and carry it. Automatically, without ever asking who put it there or why. We call this life. But here's a thought. Talk to a 6 or 7-year-old. They don't have that backpack. They're not calculating how they come across to other people. They're not managing their image. They want something, and they go for it. They get angry, and they show it. They feel like the authors of their own game, not like characters in someone else's. So what happens to that? Gradually, quietly, we hand over the right to define our own process. First to a couple of teachers, then to our parents and their worries about our future, then to a system that already has a plan for us. And at some point, we look around and realize we're living for goals we never actually chose, working towards status that doesn't warm us up, running in a direction someone else once declared correct. And the subtlest part of this trap, it doesn't look like a trap. It looks like responsibility, like maturity, like how it is for everyone. In philosophy, there's a simple word for this: living as a victim, not in the sense of tragedy or weakness, but in the sense of someone things happen to. Someone who never catches a break, who doesn't have time, who is made to, blocked from, not allowed. A victim doesn't create their reality. They react to someone else's. And here's the real kicker. When this person hits a wall and decides to make a change, they change everything except the one thing that matters. They change jobs, but not the role. They change relationships, but not the script. And they wonder why it all circles back around. Because the backpack never left. It just moved to a different office. There's only one way out. And, honestly, it's a little unsettling for the first 5 seconds. You have to admit that you packed that backpack yourself. Nobody's to blame. The world isn't working against you. Somewhere along the way, you agreed to live inside someone else's process, and that was your choice. The good news? If that was your choice, so is the next one. This isn't about optimism. It's not about motivation. It's about who you decide to be in the next minute. A victim of circumstances, or the creator of your own life. Let's look at how this actually works from the inside. Because this quiet backpack has a very specific mechanism, and it's worth knowing. How programs work, and the ego's quiet con. So, the mechanism. How exactly do we agree to carry someone else's backpack? And why does it happen so invisibly? Here's the thing. The ego has one non-obvious but incredibly stubborn need: to feel right. To suffer, but righteously. To endure, with dignity. We can spend years in a job we hate and feel a quiet kind of pride about it. Look at me, I don't quit. I'm responsible. I'm sacrificing myself for my family. It sounds noble, and it is a very convenient way to avoid taking responsibility for actually changing anything. Because if I'm a martyr, circumstances are to blame. But if I'm a creator, something has to actually change. That's scarier. In psychology, these persistent patterns are called programs. And they're not abstract. They're specific beliefs we absorbed from the outside world and started treating as our own thoughts. No pain, no gain. Money doesn't come easy. Real success is always hard work. Beautiful phrases. Society broadcasts them from childhood, movies reinforce them, social media confirms them. And we agree, because everyone around us agrees too. But here's what happens inside once a program is running. The soul says, I want to do what I love. The mind fires back. You can't. That's not serious. That's not how you make money. The body tightens and goes quiet. This isn't an internal dialogue. It's a war. 3 parts of the same person, pulling in different directions, and ultimately going nowhere. Because all the energy is being burned on the conflict itself. That's why people with chronic inner tension often can't figure out where the exhaustion is coming from. They didn't do anything particularly demanding. They just lived. They just thought. But if there's a quiet war running in the background at all times, the body wears down. Programs run on your energy. And the more you fight them, or worse, blindly obey them, the tighter they hold. When someone first realizes this, the initial reaction usually isn't relief. It's frustration. Wait, I did this to myself. Yes, but not out of stupidity, out of unawareness. And that distinction matters. One important thing, you can't fight programs into submission. They get stronger from resistance. You simply have to see them, acknowledge them, and calmly choose something else. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's look at the root. Because programs themselves are a symptom, the real source of the tension goes a little deeper. Over-control and the loss of the game. Picture someone playing chess. They spend 20 minutes on every single move. They sweat. They sip water. They stare at the board like their life depends on it. Sitting across from them is another player, relaxed, slightly smiling, moving quickly and easily. Which one do you think plays better? Almost always, the second one. Because they're playing. The first one is at war. That's over-control. When life stops being an interesting game and becomes an exam you cannot afford to fail. When every decision feels like a risk. When any mistake is a catastrophe. When you can't ease up because you have to stay on top of everything. Where does it come from? Usually, fear. We're afraid of losing control over the situation, so we start controlling everything. Our schedule, other people's reactions, a future that hasn't happened yet. This requires massive amounts of energy. And, most paradoxically, it doesn't work. The tighter the grip, the more things slip through. The world has a fairly simple design. It doesn't respond well to being forced. There's a beautiful concept I keep coming back to, the idea of the world as a sponsor. It genuinely wants to support us, to open doors, to help, but only as long as we're not standing there with our arms crossed saying, I know better. The moment we insist on our exact outcome, our exact timeline, our exact method, the world starts pushing back. Not because it's cruel, but because we stopped being partners. We started trying to write the universe's script for it, which is, if you think about it, a little bold. I remember a time when I desperately wanted a certain situation to go exactly the way I'd planned. I pushed. I argued. I controlled every detail. The harder I pushed, the worse it went. And then, at some point, I just got tired and let go, and the whole thing resolved itself naturally and better than I'd planned. Classic. Almost embarrassingly cliché. And yet every single one of us walks into this again and again. Because over-control isn't a bad habit. It's a defense mechanism. And as long as we keep treating life as a threat to be managed, we'll keep clenching our fists. So what do? Relax? Yes, but not passively. Not in a whatever happens, happens kind of way. More like a conscious act of trust. And it starts with one simple step. Step 1. Radical honesty. Stop and look. 3 words that sound simple, but in practice require a certain kind of courage. Stop and look. Not solve the problem. Not make a plan. Just stop. Because when we're under tension, we run on autopilot. We react using old patterns. We follow familiar grooves. And we don't even notice we're doing it. The first thing you need to do is get out of the reaction loop. Take a pause. Become the observer. This is especially hard when everything feels urgent. When there's a deadline. When money is tight. When there's conflict. When the clock is ticking. Those are exactly the moments when the mind screams. There's no time to stop. We need to do something. And those are exactly the moments when stopping matters most. Because panic isn't a strategy. There's a question I use in moments like these as a kind of inner instrument. It sounds like this: whose goal am I serving right now? Not what should I do? Not how do I get out of this? Specifically, whose? Mine or someone else's? A program's or my soul's? Fear or choice? That question works like a small emergency brake. It instantly pulls you out of reaction mode and into awareness. And sometimes just asking it is enough to lower the inner tension, even if the outer situation hasn't shifted one bit. After that, honesty, radical, and without self-punishment. Look at what's weighing on you and tell yourself the truth. Yes, I backed myself into this corner. I took on someone else's program as my own. Okay, I see that. Not self-blame, not defense, just acknowledgement. Because once you name something out loud, it loses its power over you. And the last part of this step, don't fight what you see. Programs don't leave through resistance. They leave through acceptance. There's a simple formula I use personally, and it works better than any battle. I see you. I accept you. But I choose something else. That's not surrender. It's an honest conversation with yourself. Stop. See. Name it. Now, the next step. Step 2. Surrendering to the flow and releasing the body. There's an important distinction worth making right away. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up in the sense of, forget it, I'm done trying. There are two completely different states that can look alike from the outside, but are polar opposites on the inside. The first is the powerlessness of the victim. I can't do anything. Everything's against me. Why even bother? That's capitulation from fear. The second is surrendering to the flow. A calm, adult decision. I've done everything I can. I want this outcome. But if it's not mine to have, the world sees something I don't. That's trust, not weakness. The difference is everything. And the body feels it instantly. Quick test. Right now. Check in. How are your shoulders? Pulled up toward your ears. Pretty common. How about your jaw clenched? Typical. Your breath, shallow, high in the chest? These are all signals. The body doesn't lie. If your physiology is tense, you're not in trust. You're in protection mode. And in protection mode, you can solve tactical problems, but you can't create anything new. That's why the second step is to physically relax. Not as some kind of esoteric practice, but as a concrete action. Drop your shoulders. Exhale slowly. Unclench your jaw. This isn't a metaphor, it's a literal instruction. Because the body is the primary material. While it's locked up, the mind will keep spinning anxious scenarios, no matter how many times you tell yourself everything is fine. And now the most counterintuitive insight of this step. Your chances of actually getting what you want go up sharply the moment you genuinely make peace with the possibility that you might not get it. That sounds like a riddle, but it works like a law of physics. When you're clutching the outcome with white knuckles, you're afraid. And the world can feel that fear. When you let go with calm and trust, you're open. And the world starts moving toward you. Not a guarantee, just an honest partnership with reality. You've had the conversation with yourself. You've relaxed the body. You've eased the grip. Now, the last step. The simplest one, and the most concrete. Step 3. Action from the state of a creator. Here's the question that comes up at this point. Okay, I've stopped, accepted, relaxed. Now what? Just wait for things to sort themselves out. No. What comes next is action. Just a different action. From a different place. There's a fundamental difference between how someone acts from fear and how someone acts from the state of a creator. The first person is frantic. They're running around, double-checking, micromanaging every step, trusting neither themselves nor the process, and working 3 times harder than necessary. The results are mediocre. Burnout is guaranteed. The second person acts with calm. They know what they want. They've done steps 1 and 2. Their soul, mind, and body are pointing in the same direction. No internal conflict. And so action becomes easy, not because the task is simpler, but because no energy is being wasted on an inner war. Everything goes where it needs to go. This is what flow feels like. And it has one very distinct characteristic. Inside the flow, answers arrive during the doing. Not before, not after. You act, and you understand what to do next. You move, and the road opens in front of you. So the last step is simply to begin. Take the first concrete action. Not the grand one. Not the perfect one. Not the one with a guaranteed outcome. Just the next step. From a relaxed body. From an honest intention. From the state of a creator who doesn't demand guarantees from life, but also doesn't wait for the world's permission. Just creates. Neil Donald Walsh said it well. Life is not a process of discovery. It's a process of creation. Every day, we're not uncovering something that was already designated for us. We are building what will be. And we do it here, now, with the next step. The backpack can come off at any moment. You just have to remember, you put it on yourself, which means you can set it down.